Everybody's in place. Everybody's in place. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, yes, yes. Oh, I know. Good boy. I know, I know, I know. You're a good boy. We're gonna do a Jerry segment. We haven't done a Jerry segment in a while. Oh, you're Jerry segment? You wanna do a Jerry segment? Oh, you're a good boy. Yes, you are. Oh, Papa. Gotta smush my glasses. What? Oh. What was that? What was that? What was that, mister? What was that? What was that? There you go. You want to sit? Hi. Okay. This is going to be incredible because this is going to be the first video that YouTube is not going to have any issues with. No copyright issues whatsoever, at least cross my fingers, because right there. It's my own first episode of the watch list where there are no copyright issues because we're watching my own material. We're watching my own show. Need to look at the lens. Hello. My name is Krumbine. I am a professional storyteller and amateur YouTuber, as you can tell, right? Come on. What? This is the watch list where we hang out and talk movies. And gosh, I really hope the audio focus doesn't keep pulling the screen. That's gonna be fucking weird. The idea with the watch list, if you've seen it before, if you haven't seen it before, this is episode 3. Just hanging out and talking movies and television and that sort of thing. And like I already said, today we're watching my own YouTube show, and we'll see how long Mr. Jerry wants to hang out and talk about my show for a little bit, because he doesn't like when things don't happen with him. So he's gonna be here on my lap for a little bit. Before we jump into things, hey, thanks for clicking the video. Thanks for hanging out. I really appreciate it. Please mark your calendars. Next week is going to be RoboCop versus RoboCop. Go ahead and watch the original 80s version and then the 2014, we'll call it remake for the context of this preview, and then come back here next week to hang out. And this next episode of the watch list will be RoboCop versus RoboCop. So watch the movies and we'll hang out and we'll chat about it. We'll have some fun. I wanted to mention that I did just watch the new Roadhouse. I have not seen the original Roadhouse, so I watched the new one with Jake Gyllenhaal. I loved it. It had, again, if you are familiar with me, professional storyteller. I've written several novels. One of them is called Punched. Abraham Owens is Punched, Drunk, and All Out of Fucks. It is on Amazon and Apple, and then the audiobook is free to listen right here on YouTube. Roadhouse with Jake Gyllenhaal, the new version directed by Doug Liman, is a punch 'em up, and if I was writing Punched Drunk today, I would have watched Roadhouse to get as a reference film, to get into the zone and to feel the vibe of the punch 'em up. So there are issues with the film, obviously, but I mean, I went into it to enjoy a punch 'em up, and I love Jake Gyllenhaal ever since Donnie Darko. So it was a fun film. I've never seen the original Roadhouse, so should we do Roadhouse versus Roadhouse in a 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now? I don't know. Let me know in the comments. Additionally, on my personal watch list, I did finish all 9 seasons of Scrubs. If you haven't seen it in a long time, most people have seen it. Most people have the same opinion of it. It's a great fucking show. Season 1, if you ever go back to rewatch, like if you only watch season 1, that's almost enough, because season 1 is not only television perfection, but Scrubs perfection. All of the characters are perfectly fleshed out and defined in that first season. And then after that, it gets a little reductive, like playing with the characters. You know, they do interesting things. Don't get me wrong, but like everything you need to know is in that first season, and it is immaculate. That first season is really really perfect, and then if you don't remember or don't know, Scrubs ran, I think it was on NBC for 8 seasons. It had its finale, and then ABC picked it up and saved the show. Um, and they did a backdoor season long pilot for a new show called Scrubs Med School, and that's what season 9 was. And it was something different. It didn't have the same magic as like season 1 of Scrubs, but it was something different, and they did something. They successfully, Bill Lawrence successfully, and Zach Braff at that point, he was an executive producer for that last season. They introduced new characters and they made those characters work. It was just a short 13 episodes, but I really enjoyed that final season. And it was also a good way, even after the finale in season 8. It was that extra bonus season. It was just like that's what it was like. It's the French fries at the bottom of the bag. Like it was this extra surprise that was still it made saying goodbye to Scrubs that much easier. So I really enjoyed that rewatch. Next up is and I have started watching this is Star Trek Prodigy. This is a rewatch on season 1 because season 2 is forthcoming very very quickly. Prodigy is weird because it originally debuted on it's a Nickelodeon co-branded production, but frankly it is like one of the best new Star Trek shows, hands down. And there's some good Star Trek shows. This one is one of the best. So if you have skipped it because it's a kids animated show, like don't go watch it. It's really really good. And so I rewatch. I'm gonna rewatch the season. I've watched the pilot, and I remember that first feeling I had when I watched it when it originally debuted, and it was like that pilot episode has such Star Wars vibes to it. It's really weird. It's real off-putting. Like what am I actually watching? But what's cool is since the first time watching Prodigy, I have since watched I have now seen the entire library of Star Trek, minus the OG Star Trek animated series, but I've watched all of it. So there are details now. There are deep cut details now in Prodigy that I just now have a much finer appreciation for. Again, and I think that's one of the cool things about Star Trek in general is great stories to begin with. I love the sci-fi idealism of the franchise, and there's so much value on rewatch, especially something like Prodigy that pays homage and respects the history, the 60 plus year history of this franchise. It's a cool show to watch. And then of course season 2 has the inclusion of quite possibly my favorite Star Trek character, period, hands down, end of sentence, the Doctor from Voyager. So I'm very excited for season 2 when that comes out. Finally, before we get into all of that crap over there, I do want to very quickly say that YouTube doesn't like me very much right now, because two videos ago, I think I mentioned an unmentionable word, and that there isn't really a shadow ban thing, but I think there's an automated moderator, and there was so the video, I think, got caught up in that automated moderator and got throttled, and the channel has been it's not like I'm starting from scratch, and it's not like I've got super huge visibility, but I think the channel is being throttled a little bit right now until YouTube can figure out, hey, I just mentioned that unmentionable word because one, I was talking about Iron Claw, and it's a subject of Iron Claw, and um, then I mentioned again, well, and it's funny because in the Iron Claw video, that did do well. Um, I don't say the word, but obviously that is the subject matter of Iron Claw. In the vlog episode where I said the word, also just in reference to YouTube didn't like it and has been penal. Anyways, point is YouTube does not like me very much right now. Not that I think they ever did to begin with. Excuse me. So if you're watching this, if you are still watching this at this point, I haven't even started the watch list episode, and we're 12 minutes in or so. If you're still watching this, if you're here, if you're hanging out, give it a like, please. Drop a comment about right now about, I don't know, Roadhouse versus Roadhouse. Let me know if you're gonna watch. Let me know if you're gonna watch the RoboCop films for next week. But yeah, like give it a like. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe, and I would really appreciate it if you turn on those notifications. Again, it lets YouTube know people are actively watching this, that people are invested in this stuff. I'm not a danger to the population at large because of that unmentionable word a couple of videos ago. Help me help the algorithm is what I'm asking for here. And what I was going to say about the notifications, I'm doing 2 videos a week, if that. I'm doing honestly, Krumbine, the vlog, the vlog show, and the watch list where we hang out and talk about movies and film and television stuff. That's it. I'm not going to blow up your notifications with shorts and all kinds of crazy stuff. So feel free to turn on those notifications and just get that heads up when this or that gets posted. That's it. And since I've rambled on enough about other pointless stuff, seriously, thanks for hanging out. Thank you for watching this. This was cool. I enjoy doing this. Now that Act 1 of Honestly Krumbine is in the bag. So that's what this video is about. Episodes 1 through 10 represent Act 1 of and fully lay out what I was trying to do and wanted to do with this show. I turned the loop on. Oh no, that's right. Is it looping? No, yeah, that is still. I think that's right. Yeah, Act 1. No, that was. I don't know what I'm looking at. I create a little playlist so that and it's a playlist of 2 videos. I thought I was looping one of the videos. What am I looking at? Oh no, this is right. Yeah, it's good. I don't know why I question myself. Anyway, so now that Act 1 is there, and I've accomplished the thing that I wanted to accomplish. Not that I'm going to stop the show, but it represents the narrative project, the storytelling project. Like I said, professional storyteller, amateur amateur YouTuber. So this represents the narrative project that I was working on. And now that it's done, I wanted to peel the curtain back and talk about how we got to this point with Act 1. So that's what this is about. Again, watch list episodes in the past. If you haven't watched it already, I did Iron Claw. Spoiler alert, I didn't like it very much. It is a comparative review, though. So inside the Iron Claw movie is also Society of the Snow. And then The other one did not do as well, but I am very happy about it, is my Barbie review, which is also comparative in that I compared it to Flintstones. So if you want to deep dive on either of any of those films, go ahead and check out those prior episodes. I think I will probably be linking to that playlist or the audiobooks. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, whatever. They're easy to find. Go onto the main channel page and all that stuff's easy to find. This, peeling the curtain back, this project was all about storytelling and performance. So I've talked about this plenty of times before. So for the 3-4 people that actually watch my videos, shout out to Soul of Bass, Soul Loves Bass. I'm sorry, you've updated your username. Thank you so much for hanging out, dude, and watching these videos. Jimmer SD, Pete, Sabino. That's Maddie's in there, here and there. Maddie's there somewhere. I'm sure he's watching. But like, there you go. So I think that's 5 people watching the videos, a little bit more than 3. But I'm a professional creative. That's my day job. I edit and produce videos all the time, and I am in front of the computer and I'm editing all the time. So when I made the decision to come back to YouTube and go on camera on YouTube, one thing I didn't want to do was spend a lot of time on the computer editing. Even though that is my trade, that is my art, that is my specialty, that is my expertise, I don't want to do it. Not on YouTube. That's what last year was about. And frankly, again, YouTube did not like me very much. You guys didn't. I mean, it became too much of a project, and it became too much of a hindrance to the creative process. So I wanted to keep things literally as simple as possible. So if you didn't notice, each of these episodes, each Honestly Krumbine episode, is a single take. That was the point. I want to set up the camera, I want to record it, do it in one take. I think there was only maybe one instance where I redid a take, or I practiced it and then shot it. Otherwise, it was very raw, single take performance. And then the only thing I do in post was combined the audio, which is being recorded on the computer here in just wanted to open the switch over to that screen, make sure I am recording nicely. Where I combined the audio and video in post, and fucked around with the picture a little bit in Final Cut, just as you will see on some of the shittier videos as they come up. To that end, what I want to talk about first and walk you guys through is the technique. I just have notes over here. This is not scripted. It is just notes. I did start shooting this on my iPhone 15. I shot it on the iPhone. When I started shooting, I used the standard iPhone camera. Actually, did I start shooting? I might have started shooting. No, it was on the iPhone 15, I think. I haven't. I just upgraded from the 13 mini. But I shot on the iPhone 15, and I started using the iPhone camera app. And I liked the new one because you could control the exposure or it was easier to set the exposure so it doesn't randomly shift all the time. And then I switched over to the Blackmagic camera app, which was really good. I like that camera. It is a very well, if you're shooting on iPhone, and if I ever shoot anything else on the iPhone, professionally, kind of, sort of, I will definitely use the Blackmagic camera app. That was a total game changer, and I think you can actually tell. You're not going to see it in any of these videos, but I'll have I'm kind of sort of editing these videos. I will have overlays here. You can definitely see the quality difference in that I was able to have a finer control over the picture in Blackmagic camera app. So highly recommend that. Technical wise, again, peeling the curtain back a little bit, I had a setup. I don't have it, but I have the Apple Studio display. So that connects seamlessly with the iPhone, and it just mirrors the display. So it was the perfect monitor, and it's color calibrated, so it's a high quality monitor for your video. So it was a really easy way to monitor myself and make sure the frame was set and be able to have that reference. So I went from the iPhone to the ZVE10, which I'm shooting on now. Um, that was the bigger issue that I really struggled with across the production. I also have an old, shitty, tiny Samsung TV that I would export the video or run as a monitor, which was really stupid the first few times that I did that because it was super bright and I had no fucking idea what the actual picture was that I was recording, and it looked like that at the end of the day. So that was the cameras. I only shot with the iPhone and then the ZVE10. As I said in the very last episode of Act One of Honestly Crumbine, everything really was scripted. The stutters, the interruptions. I really enjoyed the process of writing those scripts, and it was which was a little conflicting as I got through it, because we'll get to the reality of everything in a bit. But what I wanted to say was that I had the script and I started with the iPhone. So in the very first episode, and it might have been the second episode as well, but in the very first episode, I had a setup like I have right now where I had the laptop off screen with the script, and I scrolled that, and it was like I said at the start of this, the premise of this show was performance and storytelling, and it really was. I'm so proud of that first episode and that performance in the first episode. The fact that I was using a laptop off screen, like way over here, as a teleprompter. You'll go back and watch it now, and you'll be like, "Oh, I can tell you're reading off of off of the laptop." But I don't think it's that obvious. I think the performance is there, and the characterization I was doing is there, I think it worked really well. So I'm really proud of how that worked out. Um, I should have brought it in here, but I didn't. I do have an actual teleprompter, and starting at some point, I did have the proper teleprompter with the iPhone, which was interesting because then the hood, like the iPhone had to be all the way inside the teleprompter hood with just the cable running out to the studio display. The teleprompter works with just an iPad, and then I had my trackpad connected to the iPad. So that gets a little bit more obvious, especially now that you know what you're looking for when you're watching these videos. You can kind of see me leaning over or over to the side of the screen, and my hand is kind of reaching out and moving. You can kind of see, like, again, if you know what you're looking for, you'll see when I'm actually scrolling the page and keeping myself. I did it all manually, so there wasn't a teleprompter that followed my voice or anything. I literally just scrolled and did that. But again, I really liked the performance. I wasn't keen on I for the characterization and the performance I was going for. It was weird to have such locked eye focus with the camera. That wasn't necessarily what I wanted to go for, but by nature of using the teleprompter and being able to give that scripted performance, I think everything worked out the way it needed to be. It also showed a growth in the characterization that I was doing, where, like, I did start off talking very specifically over here and not making eye contact and looking away, and eventually, like, really kind of coming in and spending more time on the camera lens. Again, I'm coming back to YouTube. That was it showed there's this arc that I was telling with these 10 episodes. So all the way up to episode 8, everything was fully scripted. And then on episode 9, I shifted it up because I had switched to the ZVE10, and I was having so many picture problems, and I was getting really pissed off, just like I say in the videos, that I spent all this money on this new camera to upgrade my picture, and I'm an idiot that doesn't know how to use it. And part of the problem, I'm pretty sure, was that I wasn't using the teleprompter correctly. So like I had gotten into the habit of, like I said, tucking the entire iPhone into the hood. So I wasn't being as mindful of the hood as I should have been. So when I switched over to the camera, I wasn't tightening the hood around the lens. So I think there was, even though I shoot, like when I was shooting out in the living room, I was shooting in a relatively dark environment. I have very simple uh, light sources. In fact, now I have two. Right now I'm using two, but most of the time I would, up until this point, I've only used one literal light source, or three light sources, I guess, green ambient light. So I was having issues with my picture quality because of the teleprompter. That's why with episode 9, I was like, all right, I'm going to go in a different direction. I'm going to stretch myself a little bit. I'm just going to have an outline on the computer. I had the outline on the computer. So, and I wanted to, again, like match that performance, still be able to give that very consistent performance. And you can tell me, right? Be 5 guys who've watched all of these, be very honest. Was that performance consistent? Did you know for sure like something was scripted or wasn't scripted until I properly revealed it? Episode 9, I just had the outline, so I had no teleprompter, specifically so that the camera could just run kind of natively, and I could see if that gave me the picture quality that you are seeing now that I wanted to. I still think I'm not using the teleprompter correctly. It was simple setup issues, but I'm very now gun shy on using the teleprompter. And it was literally episode 8 that had such horrible shitty video quality, and even after the fact, I tried a bunch of tests to see is it to troubleshoot what I was doing wrong with the picture quality. Um, yeah, like I said, it turned into a fun project where, okay, can I do this same vlog and get that same performance and get that same style and energy off of an outline? So I wasn't chained to a script anymore. I think it worked. It was a fun project. Finally, I kind of already mentioned this, but just for those who care, who are interested, this is there a logo over there? Fifine, a dynamic microphone. I'm pretty sure it was about $100 when I bought it a couple of years ago. I have the microphone everyone else has, my Shure SM7B, in my recording sound booth, with the rest of my audio gear. That's what I record my audiobooks on. That's what I do my professional day job audio recording in. So this has always been kind of just the cheaper run and gun solution, as it were, connected to a MacBook Air, recording into Logic Pro. You could use anything for recording the audio. GarageBand works fine. Audacity, like anything, you run it into anything. Point is that the microphone's great. Like almost any cheap dynamic microphone in this situation, like audio is your most important thing. Like video is cool. Like getting that really good video quality is great. But uh, I'm I was honest in the last episode of Honestly Crumbine, when not the last episode but episode 9, when I said I almost prefer shooting on the I do prefer shooting on the iPhone. It's a tool. I've always preferred shooting on the iPhone. It it's technology that gets out of your way, and lets you just focus on being creative. And when I switched to the ZVE10, like I just stumbled fucking hard. I'm okay with that for what I did, and I'll get into that later. But that was the technique. I wanted to kind of peel the curtain back and really get into explain like what tools I was using, how I use them, before we get into at this point, the heartbeat of what honestly Crumbine was all about, which was story. So let's talk about story here. This first interesting point is exactly why we're watching this video here, because as much as I love the experience of honestly Crumbine, these long, 20-30 minute vlogs that ended up telling the story across 10 episodes, and and like I said, like 5-6 hours almost of video. I'm actually most proud of the recap episodes. So I did 2 recap episodes, and it's honestly the second recap that has a recap of the first recap and then the actual recap of episodes. I think like 4 through now, yeah, 4 through 9 of the show. What I love about these recap episodes is that if you had no idea what was going on as you're watching the actual episodes, if you didn't realize all of the story details that I was seeding, and the reason I was talking about things, all of a sudden the recap episodes kind of scoops all the relevant bits up, and you go back and you go, oh, look at the web he wove. I'm proud of it, man. I mean, that was the fun of it for me, to tell that story, and then the recap episodes really underscore what that story was, and condenses it down into obviously a more digestible format. But the show is called honestly Crumbine, and then it's revealed that everything is scripted. There are lines about, not knowing what is real. And the truth of the Act One story is that absolutely everything was real, mostly. Um, but not all of it, I will say this, not all of it was in real time. And some of the details were tweaked to protect individuals. It wasn't really to protect individuals, but either for dramatic purposes or just to be sensitive to people, I think. So, for example, I left it here for a very specific reason. The cerebral social media slasher screenplay. One of the reasons that I never properly showed it on camera, even though I could have like just reprinted this cover page, and I should have. The script is called A Bright and Promising Young Woman, but this detail right here, yeah, this thing was done back in 2021. The drama with the producer that was fictional. But everything else about this screenplay is true. The using the creative momentum to go from one project to the other, that's all true. I've been through that multiple times. Like, even if this particular scenario wasn't true to life, like, these experiences are so authentic to my soul that this is just a way to tell that story. I actually call it creative stacking, to intentionally have one project prepared, to have a project lined up that you can slide right into, because I've always had this kind of creative postpartum when I finish a big project, because it's done, it's out there, and it's very easy to get lost in the depression of that completionism and the pointlessness of it. Again, it is a very authentic experience to my existence. All of the mental health struggles depicted in honestly Crumbine. Even now, like there like the at the very beginning, it was like I talk about, oh, I'm I'm putting aside all of the characters I've used in the past. And it's like obviously I'm presenting myself right now as a completely different version of Crumbine than what's in that show, but also very different from, if you've been with me over the years, going back, 2008, like it's been a long fucking time. We guys, we're getting fucking old, man. Um, like this is the truth is, whether it is that character, this character, Crumbine's brain, whatever these characterization, like they are these characters. I think I'm getting ahead of myself again, but what I wanted to do with honestly Crumbine was kind of lean into that naked vulnerability, rooted in the mental health component and the struggles that I deal with. It might be it going back, it might look like like it was like overly dramatized, um, but not really. And I think if you've ever been there, like you know that you've felt those things and you've been there. Again, it might have not been real in the moment, but those were very much very authentic emotional states, for me, that I have been through. I constantly struggle with, constantly revisit. Uh, Last week, was right there. But one of those stories, that I'm very happy I was able to get into and tell, is the fact that I have learned that, so much of how I function in the real world, or in the digital world, was shaped by my father and by those acting classes, that theater group he ran, as a child. And as much doesn't matter, like I can go on camera and say I'm being authentic, whether intentionally, um lying to you, and honestly Crumbine lying, right? um or even now, like I'm not really putting on any pretense, but I am still putting on the performance, as natural as it may be, as authentic as it might be. Like I'm still putting on that performance. At the end of honestly Crumbine, like it's very authentic, it's very real. I don't know. I really don't know who the real Crumbine is. Like, I'm not sure. I'm not entirely sure. And even now, I'm thinking about conversations I'm having at work and one-on-one time, like, or creative chat. Sabino, we have a weekly, to Pointless. We have a weekly call, where we're developing some stories and a short film, and it's awesome. And like, I'm not sure how much of that is authentic Crumbine versus, what you're seeing now, what you see in honestly Crumbine. The point, though, I think at the end of the day is, if you stripped everything bare, like this is almost one of the purest, most vulnerable, most innocent, um versions of myself up here. Um, that was the concept from the beginning, is to give life to that turmoil, that struggle, and that reality that I have so very intentionally kept hidden. I think. Like, we don't really lead with that person, even in the real world, even if that is essential to who you are. We put on that shield of confidence or the mask of whatever. Anyway, that's what I mean when I talk about the authenticity. Gordon Wegner wants an ice cream. I genuinely did start writing this January of 2023 and then finished it in January of 2024. I actually finished it just about when I started doing the vlog. Which was convenient for me because then I could talk about, again, things that actually happened. I just shifted the timeline a little bit for dramatic purposes. But that being said, the struggle of this story was very real. It's only a 30,000 word novella, which is very short, although it is right on par with my first book, which Zaphod talked about in the very last video. Don't Call Me Zombie was also 30,000 words. And for a while there, was like that was my target word count. It was really all like I could write up to 30,000 words. My stories kind of just existed as 30,000 word stories. So that was kind of the beauty of Gordon Wegner too. It was like going back after the two, like contextualize. Let me give you context if you're not familiar with the writing process and the word counts of writing processes. The last novel was Don't Be Monster Dick. That was 75,000 words. So that was what you would consider a full length novel, like a like an average size novel. And then the one before that was Abraham Owens' Punch Drunk and All Out of Fox, and that one was 45 to 50,000 words. I do not remember that off the top of my head. So again, much chunkier stories. So you can see that like a 30,000 word story, that's a lot. It's a much lighter lift. So when you're going into a project like that, knowing that it's a much lighter lift, like it simplifies it, makes it easier to barrel through. That being said, like I was saying, the struggle on this project was very, very real. Where I wrote half of it, almost half of it, and hit the fucking wall, and I needed time. I almost gave up writing altogether. Is what I struggled with, kind of like abandoning the process completely, whether it was this project or any others. Like I fucking struggled with that, and then it was in November and December when when I finally found the balance again and was able to get into the right headspace to get back to that and literally write the last 15,000 words. And it was like boom boom boom. It snowballed because like I talk about in the vlog, you write the chapter, print it out, and you get to hold it. Like it really is. I was giving some writing advice to someone a few weeks ago. I was like, if you're not printing out your chapters, like you're doing yourself a disservice from a writing space. Like, and again, if you're not a writer, then okay. But when I was developing the idea for the vlog in the first place, there were two basic dramatic moments I envisioned from the very beginning, although I didn't necessarily know what the story was going to be to anchor those moments. I just knew like, oh, these moments would be really cool to have in a vlog. And these would be a cool use or a cool way to experiment with this vlog format. The first was an off-screen conversation that would be just barely audible. That was the phone call at the end of episode 4. The second big dramatic moment happened. The big dramatic off-screen concept was this major fucking impact that would kind of just disrupt everything, and the viewer, like just like the phone call, like the viewer has to actually lean really into it and be like, crank up your volume and be like, what was that? What was like it was done in such a way like if you missed it, like you probably missed it, but also like the screen just stays up there for a really long time and like, oh, let me crank up the volume on that and see what's going on there. And then you have all that background hiss and room noise and then just barely audible. So it was a way to kind of pull you in and engage you in ways like you don't really see that you don't see that in vlogs. That's I again, I wanted to make this interesting for me to do. I wanted to do something different and interesting. And then the big pounding, the big dramatic pound that would like completely disrupt everything. And I was really like it was an idea these were ideas I had at the very beginning, not knowing how I would do it or how they would be couched or anchored dramatically, narratively rather. But I knew that if we had that big dramatic impact, what a cool way to disrupt the vlog and just flip everything over. So that became the big bangs at the end of episode 9, which does not get explained in episode 10. So I have yet to explain it. It has yet to be rooted or anchored narratively. However, and this is something I am proud of, I think that thematically it is anchored. There is the emotional and mental crisis that I am going through, and like that big bang is the peak, and that's like the final shattering of my mental health and my ability to cope. You know, that's what everything is about up to that point, is the coping mechanisms for all of these struggles, these creative struggles. And thematically, that big bang is me not be is me is my coping mechanisms collapsing, basically, teeing up episode 10. um so moving along, like the personal stories, again, I kind of already talked about this a little bit, but the personal stories, it's all honest stuff. So episode 1, right, when the kid fell off the bike with the training wheels, yeah, that was an actual thing that I saw. I did not make that up. That was real, and my amusement to this day is real. The Friends episode was one of the other episodes that did well. th- I again, I know it did well. I'm not proud that it did well. I'm happy that it did well, but I'm proud of the context of the entire episode. It was the kind of an inaugural watch list episode, because it is about Friends, the TV show, but it is also about my lack of friends growing up, the lack of an environment for friends growing up, and how that impacted me emotionally, and how it still impacts me to this day. The entire structure of that vlog and how I wrote that and put that together, I like that. I'm very proud of that. So that it was all true. You know, I'm not making up the personal stuff, which goes to right into the big one with my father. All of that story was completely true and was written from a very honest, genuine place. And um take that particular episode and circle back to core premise, performance, and storytelling. I wanted to deliver a performance again, which was so fucking vulnerable and genuine to my lived experience, especially right now. And I wanted to make the vlog this very emotional experience. And it's weird because whether it's there's a couple of really emotional, there's one particular emotional scene in Punch Drunk, but I write others, but I can't think of anything off the top of my head right now. But I always kind of use myself as the litmus test, and I will go back. So like on that vlog, my father, the acting, the script vlog, I think I watched it. I will put the video together after I finish shooting it. I'll combine the audio and video. Then I will watch it. Then I will upload it to YouTube. Then I will watch it again. So I tend to like will rewatch these things a couple of times, and I use myself as this litmus test. And if and it's I don't know how fair that is. Obviously I'm biased, but like if like I'm genuinely moved by what I am seeing, and like that performance gets me to the point that I want my audience to be in. What I will share, and I hope he doesn't be upset with me. Okay, I won't say the name, but I will say that it was like one of the most validating experiences I've had since coming back to YouTube. I won't say the name to protect the innocent. A friend watched that episode. They didn't even get through it. And they called me. And I don't know why. It's the day after. It's the next day that I posted the video at night, so it's the next day. So I have an assumption that it's about that video, but I don't know. It could be about anything. And my friend is like choked up and having a hard time talking, and I'm like, oh shit, something went down and something's not good. And it turns out they hadn't even gotten through the whole video. They were that emotionally moved by the performance and the story that I was telling in that video that they had to call me right away and just express that and express like how much that was affecting them. Most fucking validate, like that's what I was going for. I wanted to that storytelling and performance. So that's what I was going for. And like, boy, like for that particular person, don't know if it landed for anybody else, landed for me and landed for my friend. It was like the most fucking validating experience I've had on YouTube. Like, you can look at the numbers. Like, I don't get views. I don't. But like to get a call from a friend telling me how much that video, and to hear it in their voice, like they are that wrecked from the story that I was telling. It was really fucking cool, man. I shared it in a comment about the honesty and the vulnerability. I've kind of already said this, but this was I wrote this in a comment, and it kind of recaps everything really nicely. So here's the comment. When I started this vlog, the whole point was to put out the most vulnerable and honest part of my personality. I can be a very confident person to the point of misinterpreted arrogance. I've literally had those accusations and leveled against me, being an arrogant personality. I've never seen myself as arrogant. I know what I do. I do what I do very well. It's called expertise. You have confidence in your expertise, and I think stupid people misinterpret that as arrogance. But even all of that is back to the comment. Even all of that is just a mask I put on to cope with the real world. Again, just repeating some of the things I've already said, but good summary. In other words, it feels like you're responding to the vulnerability, and I appreciate that. Our deficiencies are part of who we are, and figuring out how to embrace them, or cope with them, in my case, is the only path to a healthy and satisfying creative life. Which at the end of the day, like that, again, premise and storytelling, or the premise, storytelling and performance, that really is what one of the core themes of honestly Krumbine. And, that is my existence, and certainly my existence on YouTube is pursuing a satisfying and pursuing a healthy and satisfying creative life, which all gets summed up in the last episode of or the last episode of Act 1 of Honestly Crumbine. So, to that end, let's talk about some wins and fails, which is mostly going to be about fails. But look, YouTube, social media in general, capitalism basically has warped. I really feel like it's warped our sense of success. I've spent a lot of time meditating on about this and really thinking about this. It's very easy, to go look at those numbers, right? And the crashing subscriber count and be like, "Oh, it's a big failure. It's a failure," right? How is that a success? But the reality is that I set a goal to come back to YouTube and tell this story over so many episodes. I wanted to do this extremely simple, unedited vlog that would ultimately be this unique creative expression. It was intentionally experimental. It was like so much of it. I had this very intentional project I wanted to accomplish. So, YouTube, social media, capitalism in that, we got to earn money, and this is how we measure success. All of that aside, because it's fake and it's bullshit, I accomplished everything I wanted to do. I succeeded completely with this project. I was super fucking successful. I got that great call from my friend, you know, success. So I am when I am in a good space, even when I'm not in a good space, I am very happy with my wins. Pro tip: you can right click on a video and hit looping video. That's how looping on YouTube works. I think this was a super successful project, and I'm very proud of myself for what I accomplished with it, and I'm excited about where I'm going with it. Frankly, there's like my fails were around technique. There were like there's the Astro House free write episode just looks god. That was, I think it was episode 8, the one that really where the teleprompter just completely fucked everything up. I was like, between the new camera and the teleprompter, I was like, if there was one video I should have reshot, I should have looked at the footage at the end of the take. I should have reshot that one. That was the one I should have done. So my issues are technique, are on the technical side. I have to constantly remind myself when I'm being real about, the technique. If the premise is vulnerable honesty in the story and that characterization that I was putting out there, then perfection can never be the end goal. Perfection is kind of the antithesis of what I was trying to do. If I wanted perfection, I wouldn't be doing these 30-minute long vlogs where I ramble and stutter and do all of that kind of stuff. So I have to keep that like I have to realize and accept the fact that perfection, even the ugliest technical mistakes, episode 8, like it is still authentic to this project that I was doing. So I have to accept that. And 2, I am a storyteller and video editor first, even though I'm not editing these videos. Those are my skill sets. Those are my those are my areas of expertise. And talking at length for about my own videos is an area of expertise, I suppose. Like I said earlier, I prefer shooting with my iPhone because it simplifies the creative process. Because I am a storyteller first. I want to tell my story, whether it is, through words or script or visual technique. One of the things I'm really at this point we've already seen a lot, but one of the visual stories that I was telling is kind of a subtle detail, but I love how I was able to foreshadow the puppet with the green, in the green light in episode 9. Like, so there's visual things that I was able to do story-wise, that again, the hardware just caused me to stumble. But that being said, I think there is that authenticity to that Act 1 story of me coming back and learning, just like with the teleprompter, how I went, so focused off screen to slowly making that eye contact, or making stronger eye contact rather. I think the visual style of those first that evolving nature of those visual styles tells that authentic story of this guy, me struggling with my art. There you go. Honestly, Krumbine in a nutshell, struggling with my art. Episode 10, I will put up more specific points here, but and this really was, I knew for a while I was gonna go here. I knew. I don't know that I knew I was gonna do it like this. I had a pretty good idea what I wanted to do, like 10 episodes to get to this point. And I knew, like, the title was going to be Krumbine Can't Come to the Vlog right now. And then, of course, have Zaphod, have the puppet, anchor the video. So obviously this one is so much shorter. But what's interesting is, going back to production technique, how I went from a full script, through most of it, to just an outline in episode 9. Obviously, this one is actually fully scripted once again, and even more so, to pull this off, I pre-produced all of the audio. So all of to do it completely, I had to record Zaphod's lines as well as my lines. And then I had three audio tracks. I ended up having the master track with both ends of the conversation, so it was already pre-edited. I had it done like a week ahead of time, and I probably was listening to it on repeat for 24, 48 hours before I shot it. And then when I did shoot, I pressed play on the earpiece and the computer speakers. Zaphod was on the computer speakers, and then my own lines were in my earpiece. This first sequence was the big one, where it starts with Zaphod, and then I come into the frame, and that was the big chunk and that was the big challenge. This whole video is such a creative challenge. So I had to be able to do the puppeteering and then my monologue before it broke off into, like, the back and forth dialogue, which was going to be a little bit easier to digest in the production sense. But that first sequence, I I spent a lot of time thinking about that, and really figuring out how to make that work, and also retain, again, core premise. I only want one shot. And yes, there are edits here, but it is, it still retains the illusion of that single shot. Don't get me wrong, it is a single performance on both ends of the screen, but both of those obviously are then blended together. There are no cuts in between. There's no cuts on the Zaphod side, there are no cuts on the Krumbine side. But they are two different shots, independent of each other. What was interesting, and I only did it once, and I don't wish I had done it. I had did it twice, but I know if I had repeated or at least rehearsed, it would have been better. I do know that. Even now, even like, what is it? 4 days later or something, my wrist, my arm actually still is a little sore. I haven't puppeteered in a really long time. And when I was practicing, in rehearsing the concept, so I was listening to the audio, like sitting on the couch and listening to the audio, or sitting out back tossing the stick with Jerry, listening to the audio, I would just do this and move my hand. But doing that and having a puppet on your hand, and even though it's not huge, not big, heavy or whatever, like that's different. And then add on to that, like you're lying on the ground with your hand up in the air and needing to perform and give life to it. So there are a couple of moments where my arm is dying on me, and I feel very strongly about a puppeteer, about puppet performance. There's a right way to do it. I saw a big YouTuber added a puppet and was like, oh, there's like I'm nitpicking some of the details. One of the things that uh, novice puppeteers don't know to do is you gotta open that mouth so much more than what you initially think it needs to move. I went through my own experience doing that over a decade ago. You can find the videos, like it's the old Beanie Boy show stuff. The first times I did all of this puppetry stuff. There's a lot to that performance, and in the past, when you do it line by line and you're going to edit, it's a lot easier to just kind of like worry about just a small chunk of the performance. But that was the problem with this. Like, it was always going to be this full take of the entire thing, either from the very intro monologue with Zaphod, which I feel better about than this part where the dialogue is happening. But by the time I got to the second part, like my arm is exhausted. I did not have the endurance or the practice to handle the marathon of that project. So I do believe the puppet performance could have been better. Because of what I wanted to do with this episode and the technique of it and the single shot and all that, I am super fucking proud of it. I'm very happy with what I accomplished. But again, kind of like I can nitpick the technical issues. The other issue, so it's the puppet performance and then my own performance. Even though, so the way I pulled it off is I had my lines in my ear, but the timing of it was off. And I feel like if I had just did a second take, rehearsed it once or twice more, I would have been able to nail the timing a little bit better. Not a huge problem, but it could have been better. Finally, with this, final issues were that I kind of have to figure the shot out and set things up as I go. And like once I figure it out, I'm like, all right, let me jump in and shoot this, and we'll see how it goes. And then like, okay, well that felt good, and let me hurry up and do the other part and slap this thing together and put it up online, be done with it. Like I barrel through these productions once I start going. And because I'm shooting on this really wide angle lens, like I knew I had to split the screen, and I knew I had to give space for the puppet, and I needed to be able to have space for both performances. That was a struggle. And again, if I had rehearsed it, I think I could have pulled myself back a little bit. I feel like I crowded the camera a little bit too much. I feel like Zaphod crowded the camera just a little bit too much. So I feel like even if it was just Zaphod, if I could have pulled him away from the camera a smidge during the dialogue, I would have been so much happier with the way it looked. Love the intro. I think the intro came out great. The other thing was I fucked up the lighting, but this is where I am a video editor first. That is my expertise. So once we go into the split screen, like watch it very carefully. You see, like I'm casting a very strong shadow on the wall there. I was thinking about it, but I wasn't looking at that. So I have created like cardboard barn doors for the light to kill those shadows, and I wasn't killing enough of them. What I ended up doing was to piece. So one, because I wasn't, I had one, I was at different focal lengths basically, for each split, which meant the background bokeh. And if I was shooting on the iPhone, it wouldn't have been an issue. But the background blur on each side of the screen is different, and it changes. But here's the thing. You would have never noticed it unless I call it out. And even then, when we look at it, you probably would be hard pressed to actually see the specific difference. But most people don't notice those things, and that's kind of, one of the most interesting artistic tips I picked up on was a professional graphic designer in some docuseries or something, talking about like how you should never use the snap to guides or auto alignments in Photoshop or something like that. That's the machine laying out your artwork, not your unique eye laying out the artwork. And so what's interesting is that in the art space, there is such a thing as good enough. And when I was, so you can see literally right here that strong shadow over there. Well, once I layer in Zaphod, the puppet, then that becomes a problem. It becomes really obvious where you'd have that split in the screen. What you have is all of a sudden there's a shadow there, the shadow of that I'm casting, and then Zaphod comes up and the shadow isn't there anymore. So the solution is video editor first, fix it in post, and also, like, it doesn't have to be perfect. So I used I created a freeze frame of a blank slate for the background and to clear out the shadow, exactly what we're looking at now, and slowly faded that in to get rid of the shadow. And then when Zaphod comes in, he's coming in on a blank slate. And then basically have this uh, cut mask, this kind of Lego piece mask that is very gently feathered. And it moves a little bit when I move to when I go a little wild in my movement. But that's it. It's just this mask, and that's where you can see like background blur over here versus the background blur over here. It's different, but it's good enough because you never noticed it. And so even with my technical failings, I was able to fix it in post. I was able to polish it enough in post where it doesn't distract from the important thing, which is the story and the performance. And this idea that I had of being so mentally broken, I had a puppet step in for me for my vlog, and then that failed so much I ended up having this psychotic conversation with the puppet until I realize at the end of it, it really is simple. It's just about, you know, pursuing that creative that soothes the soul. That's it. And though that line that I say at the end of the episode is what sets up Act 2. Again, storytelling, the performance and storytelling, that sets up my, I have very broad ideas for or simple concepts in place for Act 2. And that line lays it all out. A dog to walk, a bike to ride, a quiet place to sleep, and art and a creative process that soothes the soul. So that was a huge, crazy, long, deep dive into, honestly, Krumbine, my wicked, crazy vlog show, experimental, weird fucking thing. My battery is almost dead. Thank you so much for hanging out and watching this. If you got to the very end here, leave a comment and let me know. Again, give this video a like. Help me help YouTube know that I'm not a danger to your mental health, or I don't know, maybe I am, but I'm not saying the bad word anymore. I'll say all the other fucking bad words, but I won't say that one. No, no siree. Hey, next week, RoboCop versus RoboCop. Look at the timing. What? Vanity card with my vanity card. It's cool. Look at that. See you next week, guys.